Now, I do love me a good Final Fantasy soundtrack. Oh, yes, I do. And somebody's asked me, Pez, can you do a video on this? This has just appeared in the newsfeed, ranking every Final Fantasy by their soundtrack. The most difficult task. So I don't envy this person. Their list is entirely subjective. Music is subjective. So full respect to them, but I've considered doing videos like this before. So what's my top 22? I've already seen like the top 4 of theirs. So I'm just going to go through the rest, and then as I talk about theirs and review theirs, you'll get an idea of what my list would look like versus theirs. So let's do this. Let's go. Scraping at the bottom of the barrel at number 22, Final Fantasy 3. Okay. I mean, I kind of expected a really old Final Fantasy to be up there. I mean, they didn't really have the technology for it. They didn't really have the resources back then. In the old 8-bit, 16-bit days, I mean, it's pretty limited. I still like it though. At number 21, the entire compilation of Final Fantasy 7. So Advent Children, Dirge Cerberus, Crisis Core. Really? What else is there on there? Before Crisis, even the soundtrack on that is fantastic. I was doing a video just the other day with Before Crisis tracks, and people saying, I really like that music. What is that? Even by Crisis Core standards alone, that should at least be in mid-teens. I mean, I say should be, again, it's subjective. I'm going to sound like an arsehole. I can't agree with that, Captain. Okay, another really old Final Fantasy at number 20. And that's the first crit strike to the heart. So a lot of you know that 10-2, I love this soundtrack. This actually makes it about number 3 for me. One of my favourite soundtracks in the franchise. I know that's kind of crazy, and I've done a video on this before. I actually did a video back in the day, FF10 versus 10-2. What aspects were better? I kind of thought the mini games were better in 10-2. Another thing that I gave to 10-2 was the soundtrack. Don't shoot me! But there's so many good songs. 1,000 Words, Memory of Light Waves, Besaid Island, What Can I Do For You? I really like the soundtrack. I'd place it about 3, but that's just me. But 18, Lightning Returns. Okay, so again, this is a tough one for me to swallow. I'm probably going to say this about all of them. I'm just going to say this is really hard to do. He has to order them. I'm probably going to go through this list and be like, I think all of these should just be higher. There should just be a grade higher than 1. But Lightning Returns, Desert Lullaby, one of my favourite tunes. The other interesting thing about Lightning Returns is I was kind of having a franchise competition with a friend, and he said, go on then, no, if Final Fantasy music's so good, send me an example. I actually sent him the end song of Lightning Returns. For anyone who doesn't know it, it's kind of this compilation of about 5 songs. It was literally, this is my example of Final Fantasy music. Masashi Hamauza, I thought that was the pinnacle. It encompassed everything. It had adrenaline music, emotional music, it had orchestral music, it had choirs in there. Yeah, I'd probably place it up about 7 or 8 personally. Now this is interesting, and I kind of want to quickly talk about FF12. I expected it to either be really low or really high. I think 12 is one of these really weird soundtracks, and I've spoke about this in the past. You kind of either like it or you don't. And the reason why I think it's really underrated is because it has kind of 4 or 5 minute tracks that are just sort of melodical tunes that are continuous flowing, like it's different for the entire 5 minutes. And the reason why I think it kind of doesn't get as much love is because it doesn't stick in people's heads. FF12 has a soundtrack that isn't really catchy, if you get what I mean. I mean, there's nothing more than a catchy jingle. A catchy jingle in a game is powerful. So a great example of that is Cosmo Canyon. It's got the whole bum 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 and it plays constantly in the background, and it just ingrains into your brain, and it's just a tune that you really remember. So while I might not place it in my top 5, it might make top 10. I definitely say it's one of the most underrated soundtracks, because it is a beautiful soundtrack. FF11 at 16. So I've only played 20 hours, but the MMO music, I mean, especially with 14, I really hope FF14 it better place high. With FF11, I can't really comment. I only think I played 20 hours of FF11. Didn't really play much more than that, but what I did here in those 20 hours was very good, so can't really comment. It's at 16. Oh, and there it is, the game I really want to play at 15, Final Fantasy Tactics. I've not played it yet, and you guys know I'm killing. I want to play this game. So many people said that Tactics is their favourite FF. I can't believe I've not played it. So I've even started the stream before, but then KH came, well 15 came along, then KH came along. Maybe I can play it before Zodiac Age. If there's time, I might be able to squeeze it in. Oh no, God, there's Persona. There's Persona 5. 14, FF5. I might agree with that. I might end up agreeing with that. I don't know. I typically love FF5 more than the average person. I've said this before. I absolutely love FF5. X-Death theme is dope. Yeah, I suppose there's not that many masterpiece tracks. Interesting bit of trivia, it's Ray Chase's favourite as well, and it's also a lot of FF Legends' favourite. This is the interesting thing about loads of them say FF5 is their favourite, so I don't know their reasons for that. If it's for me, it might be because the story and the characters are like that. I wouldn't say that soundtrack was really that high, but okay, I can get on board with this. Kinda, well, not really. I mean, just when I think that you placed the FF7 compilation 7 points lower. Is it 7 points lower? That don't make sense to me, but... And there it is, peeking its head up, the mothership game Final Fantasy at number 13. I've listened to most of the soundtrack. I like it. 12 and 10-2 have worse soundtracks than Final Fantasy, in your opinion. Really though, man? Are you sure about that? Man, be crazy. God, and there it is. FF14 at number 12. What the fuck was that? That is too harsh. Man, FF14. If not even by just sheer size of soundtrack alone. It's had expansions of so many boss themes. This cannot be number 12 in my eyes. I know it can because music is subjective. I've played a lot of MMOs in my life. I've played World of Warcraft especially, and nothing has shaped up in an MMO to FF14 soundtrack. This soundtrack honestly blew me away, just going from just even the basic sort of town themes, even Limsa, Gridania, so good. And there's even songs that have vocals and singers that have come on. And I mean, there's been so many composers as well. There's so much magic in that soundtrack. That seems crazy. And at number 11, FF13. Okay. I mean, of the 13 trilogy, admittedly, 13-2 is my favourite. That had better place higher. In fact, that's my favourite soundtrack. So I'll be curious to see where he places this, but being that he's placed this at number 11, it might not be that high. Sunleth Waterscape, the battle theme, Zera's theme, Snow's theme, man, FF13 music. Masashi Hamauza, absolutely my favourite composer. Please put World of Final Fantasy on this list. Please. And Type 0. Please place that on this list as well, but not at 10. Again, my opinion is different. Type 0 for me, I'd place it about number maybe 4 or 3. I mean, I've got to have FF7 up there for nostalgia, then I've got 10-2, I've got 13-2, and Type 0 will be in the mix there somewhere. I know I get asked this a lot. Pez, what's your favourite song? It actually comes from Type 0. It's Bump of Chicken, Zero. And there was this Western rendition that only the West got. It was faster. It had sort of electric guitars in it, but the sad thing is, guys, you can't get it anywhere on the internet. You literally can't even get on YouTube. It's near on impossible to find it, and it's actually my favourite song. Do you realise how much that hurts? The struggle is real, but let's continue on. Next up, we have... Okay, placing that at number 9. Already said it, 13-2 is my favourite. I think at 13-2, it was so experimental in its soundtrack, but it worked. I mean, I've said this before, it had rap, orchestral, it had the slow melodic pieces, it had metal, it even had the crazy chocobo theme, pop, hip-hop, EDM, kind of trancey music, it had everything in there. And all in all, just my favourite soundtrack of all time. So seeing that at number 9, that hurts, matey. That hurts, but yeah, fair enough. I'm kind of feeling like the top list is just going to be that 90s era, 7 to 10. It's going to be clonked up with it, but Dissidia. And number 8, I wouldn't have even thought to add that to my list. I mean, this seems like a little bit of a hack pick. It's kind of a bit hackish. I mean, most Dissidia songs are just the best songs plucked from the other games. The best, most iconic battle themes and main themes just plucked out and reorchestrated. And to be fair, Dissidia does an amazing job. But that's not to say Dissidia doesn't do its own tracks. It has. It's done a few unique ones. My God. This is what I want Dissidia in the West. Had it for 2 years now, Square Enix. In the arcades in Japan. 2.5, I think. It is time! Square Enix keeps saying this could be your biggest earner, and for anyone who hasn't been following the news, they've actually said that Dissidia, they have a goal to make this a global esports tournament. But ultimately, the new Dissidia soundtrack, that could be the one that leads this franchise on a global esports stage. That's mad. And Final Fantasy IV at number 7. That is a respectable pick. Now that I can get on board with. Theme of Love, Riddia's theme, Kane Highwind's theme, Palom and Porum's theme, so much quirky, the boss, the Four Fiends music, hell of a lot of great boss battle music, and villainous music. Zeromus is a dope tune. I'll probably have that playing right now. I absolutely love 4 soundtrack, and I'll just say a lot of people are new to the franchise. A lot of people have said to me, I want to play Final Fantasy. Some want to play some of the newer ones that look good. Some of them really want to know what, they really want to commit to the franchise. I want to know all about Final Fantasy. I want to play the older ones as well. Start at number 4. 4 in my eyes. It feels like an FF, the combat plays like an FF, and the soundtrack just is FF to me. It's the most FF soundtrack. Does that even make sense? Anyone feeling me on that? Yeah. Next up, FF15. So, that's interesting. How do I feel about that? You know what, this might be really controversial because Shimomura did an absolutely amazing job. And this is Shimomura. I think I read an article where 95% of the soundtrack, including Kingsglaive, I think it was including Kingsglaive, was done by Shimomura. And I love this soundtrack to bits, but if I was to actually tally it up, it'd probably end up about 6. I mean, it's really hard to do a ranking. Now, I could sit here and say I'd go higher, but when I'd actually do it, I'll stick my list at the end, guys. But honestly, if I think back to Somnus and Omnus Lacrima, even just some of the Florence and the Machine, man, Florence and the Machine, I'm going to say, I was really not sure about them. Doing all those songs that they did for 15 at first was kind of like, whoa, what the hell, I don't know if I like this, but you know what, I'm converted, I like it. She did a fantastic job. So yeah, what do we think of that, guys? I'll probably agree. That's my position. But next up we have FF6. A lot of quirky themes in here. Dancing Mad, Celeste's theme, Impresario theme. Don't know why it is, but it has the best remixes. I've gone searching for a lot of remixes for my video, and the best ones are FF6. Terra's theme, Decisive Battle, Coin of Fate. Definitely Veiled, one of my favourite. In fact, you know what? I'll have the beat drop in 3, 2, 1. Whoo! The last time something dropped that hard, toilet water splashed my ass. And going into number 4. So I think now we're coming to the top. I think we know what's going to be in here. So it's going to be 8, 9, 7, and 10. And it's going to be a mix of that. So 9 at 4. I'm going to confess. I know some of you are going to shoot me. I love this soundtrack, but I'd place it a little bit lower. There's just so many more I'd place in. I get that my listing might seem a bit weird, but it's a damn good soundtrack. I will not take that away. I can respect that, and I can respect this. At number 3. What can I do? He's got me. He stumped me, the cheeky bugger. He's placed Tazanakan, which is an absolute masterpiece theme. I think this is one of the best songs. Also one of the best songs in the entire franchise. And like an arsehole, he placed it there. So I can't argue with him. Going into the climax. Oh, it's FF7. Oh, God, does that mean FF8 is number 1? Oh, I have some feelings on that. But good feelings. So FF7, yeah, I'm going to end up placing this in my top 4. But I'm going to openly admit, nostalgia drives me a hell of a lot. Honestly, if I try to review a soundtrack or rank it, if I let nostalgia take over, I'd end up putting this highest. If it came to nostalgia, best soundtrack of all time. Because that's just me. I listen to a single FF7 tune and boom, I'm grinning like a kid. And I feel like a kid, and I'm transported to some of the happiest times of my damn life. So, that's not really fair to the other soundtracks, that this has such a leg up on nostalgia. But the interesting thing I find about, because now 8's going to win, and 7, the interesting thing is Uematsu, who was an absolute genius, he actually said that the way they used to do it, they used to just get kind of rammed into a room. They would not let themselves leave the room until and they would just bang out about 13 songs. Just in one day, they would just lock themselves in and just drill out a soundtrack. When you look at it like that, it kind of amazes you that they were able to create such amazing pieces. But there it is, FF8 coming in at number 1. So while it wouldn't make my number 1, you know what? The interesting thing about FF8, if anyone wants to play it, if anyone wants to, or has any intention to play it, do not get the Steam port. Or if you do, be very wary. I got the Steam port because it was so long ago that I played FF8. I played it 8 years ago. I tried to re-live stream it, but the port is shit. The port is terrible. The port is horrible. And the worst thing about it, besides the compatibility issues, some of the modeling, The worst thing about it was the soundtrack. It was so distorted, guys. It's really bad. My stream was just full of people going, what the hell does this soundtrack sound like? It sounds worse than the original, and it really does. It wasn't nothing to do with my computer. They've just, for some reason, ported it like crap. So what you have to do is get the Roses and Wine mod, and when I did that, and I put that mod in and I streamed again, yeah, FF8 was a much better soundtrack than I remember. Because it kind of was a time when I didn't appreciate music. There was a time in my life I would play FFs and not really listen. But after having that Roses and Wine and Man with the Machine Gun came on and Fisherman's Horizon and Eyes on Me. So hard to pick. It's so hard to pick. Honestly, anyone who's torn between 7, 8, 9 and 10, I get it. Not a bad list. Well, not semi-respectable, respectable. I respect your picks, man. It's all subjective. We all have different ears. The one I really still can't get over is the compilation, the FF7 compilation at 21. Come on, man. There were a couple of others up in the high teens that would have had lower, and maybe some in the low teens that might have had a bit higher. But enough of talking about his list. Boom. I'm going to put this here. I don't know what my list is going to look like right now after this. I'm probably going to spend 2 hours trying to make my top 22. It is hard, guys. It's tough. But there it is. That's my final list. Do you more agree with mine? Do you more agree with his? What would your list look like? Let's take a moment to appreciate all things Final Fantasy music down below in the comment section. What would your top 5 look like? I won't make you guys type out your 22. Just what would your top 5? You get some really interesting ones. Seeing people's top 5s, you see some really quirky ones reappear a lot. 13.2, when I polled it, definitely appeared a lot. It actually appeared at number 3 for a lot of people. I think him placing it at number 9 was kind of low, and Type 0, besides the Bumper Chicken being my favourite, absolutely some of the best combat music. I still maintain the best combat adrenaline boss battle music. It's got the choirs, and as you're charging into battle, I think Type 0 is the soundtrack with the most power. Till the next video, Kubo!